Welcome to today's thought-provoking debate, the future of Islam in the modern world. In this powerful discussion, we bring together two passionate perspectives, one from a Muslim believer defending the faith and its values, and the other from an anti-Islam skeptic questioning its practices and beliefs. This debate dives into one of the most controversial and important topics of our time. What is the role of Islam in today's world? Can it coexist with modernity? Or are there fundamental conflicts between the two? But this isn't just a one sided discussion. We're here to listen, to understand, and to challenge each other's beliefs. Stay tuned as we unravel the complexities of religion, culture, and identity. What's your take on the role of Islam in today's society?
Let's cut to the chase. Islam, in its current form, is a major threat to the values we hold dear in the modern world. Women are treated as second-class citizens, Sharia law is a tool for controlling individuals, and the religion fosters a mindset of intolerance. In many Muslim-majority countries, we see oppression, censorship, and violence carried out in the name of Islam. And let's be honest, anyone who tries to deny this is either lying or willfully ignorant. The reality is that Islam isn't compatible with the freedoms of modern society. It's a religion that holds us back from achieving true equality and progress.
That's an incredibly narrow and deeply misguided view. Islam has been misinterpreted by extremists and radical governments, but that's not what Islam actually is. The teachings of Islam are built on justice, equality, and peace. The Prophet Muhammad himself promoted the rights of women, equality in society, and respect for all people, regardless of their race or religion. The problem isn't Islam, it's the political systems that use it as a scapegoat for their own agendas. You want to talk about oppression? Look at the way the West exploits the Middle East under the guise of democracy. Islam promotes liberty, but some people choose to ignore that fact.
Really? Islam promotes liberty? You're kidding, right? Tell me how a religion that forces women to cover themselves, restricts their rights to choose their own clothing, and limits their access to education can be considered a champion of liberty. In some countries, Muslim women can't even drive, let alone make decisions for themselves. You're out of touch with reality if you think these are simply misinterpretations. They're part of the core beliefs that define the religion today. And don't get me started on Sharia law. It's not about peaceful coexistence. It's a tool for authoritarian control.
Here's the problem. You don't understand the difference between culture and religion. Just because some countries have twisted Islam to serve their own purposes doesn't mean that's what Islam teaches. Islam never taught women to be subjugated. Modesty is a personal choice, not an oppression. If a woman chooses to wear a hijab, that's her decision, just like a woman in the West chooses to wear whatever she wants. If you're going to throw around accusations, at least understand the difference between a cultural practice and the religion itself. And Sharia law? You clearly have no idea what it really means. It's about justice and fairness, not the draconian system you think it is.
Stop with the excuses. You're defending a system that's inherently oppressive. Modesty is one thing, but forcing a woman to cover herself and denying her the right to make basic decisions is quite another. Islam, as a religion, has contributed to some of the worst human rights abuses in history, and you're sitting here trying to sugarcoat it. The reality is that Islam in practice leads to inequality, violence, and authoritarianism. Period.
You want to talk about human rights abuses? Let's talk about the West. Islamophobia, the wars in Muslim-majority countries, the exploitation of people in the name of freedom. If you're so concerned about human rights, maybe you should take a look at how the West has oppressed Muslim communities for centuries. The reality is that Islam in its truest form is about compassion, kindness, and social justice. But when you allow politicians and extremists to hijack a religion, you get exactly what we see today: corruption, violence, and chaos. You're blaming the religion for the consequences of political misuse.
So we've heard it all. One side claims Islam as a force of oppression, the other says it's been misrepresented. But here's the truth. Who's telling the truth and who's just spreading lies? The real question is how much of what we believe is shaped by the world around us and how much of it is just fear of the unknown.
Let's get real for a moment. We can sugarcoat things all we want, but the fact remains Islam has been linked to violence and extremism for centuries. Look at the history of jihad. It's literally built into the religion. You can't deny that the concept of a holy war has been used to justify violent actions by extremists across the world. Whether it's terrorism, the targeting of non Muslims, or the brutal treatment of apostates, Islam has too often been associated with violence. And the sad truth is that the more we look at the Quran and Hadith, the more we see justifications for violence in the name of faith.
First of all, let me be absolutely clear. Islam does not promote violence. Radical extremists have hijacked the religion and used it to advance their own political agendas. You're picking and choosing select quotes from the Quran to make your point, but you're ignoring the bigger picture. The concept of jihad has been misinterpreted by extremists to justify violence. But in its true sense, jihad refers to struggle, a struggle against one's own shortcomings, a fight to live a better, more righteous life. The Quran itself promotes peace, coexistence, and respect for all human beings. Radicalism is not the product of Islam, it's the result of political and social conditions.
That's exactly what they all say, right? The extremists claim the same thing. You're just misinterpreting the religion. But the truth is violence is embedded in Islam. You can talk about peaceful interpretations all you want, but when you see countries where Sharia law is enforced, where apostates and blasphemers are killed, when women are stoned to death for adultery, and when honor killings are justified, that's what Islam is enabling. Don't act like this is just some fringe problem. We see it happening in countries every day. And don't even get me started on the terrorist organizations that explicitly cite the Quran as their justification for violence: ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and countless others. These groups are not outliers. They are the inevitable consequence of the teachings of Islam.
You're distorting the reality to fit your narrative. It's extremists who exploit religion for their own purposes. What you're describing isn't Islam. It's the manipulation of Islam. Every religion has been hijacked by extremists at some point in history. Christianity had the Crusades, and there are radical Christians who commit violence in the name of their faith, just as there are radical Jews and radical Hindus. You cannot judge an entire religion by the actions of a few extremists. Islam has been and always will be a religion of peace. You've chosen to ignore the countless Muslim communities worldwide who live in peace, follow justice, and contribute positively to society. You're too focused on the violent exceptions to see the bigger picture.
Peaceful communities? Really? You're living in a fantasy world if you think Islam, in its purest form, is peaceful. The evidence is everywhere. The Quran itself has verses that call for violence against non-believers. How do you explain verses that call for the killing of apostates, for jihad against infidels, and for the punishment of women who defy their husbands? This isn't some misinterpretation. This is a literal reading of the religious texts. When your holy book is full of violent commands, it's hard to ignore the fact that those who act on it are simply following the religion to the letter. And let's not forget the modern day extremists who use those same teachings to justify killing innocent people. You can't just sweep this under the rug.
So we're stuck in a loop. One side says Islam is a religion of peace, the other says it's inherently violent. But here's the real kicker. When extremists cite the Quran and its teachings to justify violence, it's hard to argue that this isn't rooted in the religion itself. Misinterpretation or not, the problem is that there's a dangerous undercurrent of violence running through the core of Islam, and until you confront that fact, we're just going in circles.
Let's talk about women's rights. You can sugarcoat it all you want, but in many parts of the world, Islam oppresses women. They're treated as second class citizens, forced to wear veils, and denied basic rights like education and freedom of choice. How can you defend a religion that says a woman's testimony is worth half that of a man's? How can you defend a religion that says a woman must obey her husband or face punishment? Where's the equality there? Where's the justice? You can't claim Islam respects women when it literally institutionalizes their oppression. How is it progressive to say women can't drive, can't leave their homes without a male guardian, and can be punished for defying their husbands?
Again, you're confusing culture with religion. The Quran, in its essence, promotes respect for women. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, treated women with the utmost respect, advocated for their education, and encouraged their participation in society. The issue isn't Islam, it's the cultural practices in some countries that are the problem. Islam gave women the right to inherit, the right to work, and the right to own property. What you're describing is a political issue, not a religious one. Islam is not the reason women are oppressed in certain parts of the world. It's the way the religion has been manipulated by corrupt leaders.
Please don't try to pull that cultural misinterpretation card. Islamically clearly teaches that women are subjugated to men. You can't just ignore the parts of the Quran that specifically put women below men in every respect. The fact that women in Islamic countries are still denied basic freedoms is a direct result of those teachings. You can't call this a misinterpretation. It's right there in the holy text. The sooner you admit that Islam in practice restricts women's rights, the sooner we can have an honest conversation.
So there we have it. One side says Islam is liberating for women, the other says it's inherently oppressive. But here's the thing. If Islam is supposed to be so freeing for women, why is it that in 2025 women in Muslim majority countries are still fighting for the most basic rights? Maybe the real question is not whether Islam respects women, but why is it taking so long for the religion to evolve?
Here's the real issue. Can Islam evolve to keep up with modern times? We live in an era where progress, freedom, and human rights are paramount, but Islam has shown very little willingness to adapt to the 21st century. Take the issue of secularism, for example. In most modern democratic nations, religion is separate from politics. But Islam, particularly in many Muslim majority countries, has a political element that is entrenched in the system. Sharia law is implemented in ways that undermine individual freedoms. Can a religion that is so rooted in the past truly thrive in a modern secular world?
The real question is, why is it so hard to imagine that Islam can evolve? Islam has always been a flexible and adaptable religion. Throughout history, Muslim societies have been at the forefront of science, culture, and political thought. The idea that Islam can't adapt to the modern world is a misunderstanding. The problem lies not in Islam itself, but in how it has been misused and politicized by certain regimes. Islam, in its core, is not in conflict with modernity. It's a misinterpretation that makes it seem out of date. If you really understood the true teachings of Islam, you'd see how well it aligns with modern values of justice, equality, and human rights.
You keep saying that, but let's be honest. Islam hasn't evolved enough to meet the needs of the modern world. There's the separation between religion and state in Muslim majority countries. Where are the progressive reforms to give women full rights, to protect minorities, to create inclusive societies? There's no real movement to modernize Islam in the way that Christianity has done over centuries. The truth is, Islam is stuck in the past, and it's holding people back from embracing the freedom and progress that modern society demands.
So, will Islam evolve with the times, or will it stay rooted in the past, unwilling to change? The future is uncertain, but one thing's for sure: if Islam can't adapt, it's going to find itself on the wrong side of history. Meanwhile, we'll be sitting here waiting for a religion that embraces the 21st century, not the 7th.
Let's not forget the impact Islam has had on global politics. From terrorism to radicalization, from international conflicts to oppressive regimes, Islam has been at the center of some of the world's most pressing geopolitical issues. Countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Afghanistan have used Islam as a tool for political control, creating violence and instability. How can we ignore the role Islam plays in the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East, Africa, and even beyond? These aren't just isolated incidents, they're a reflection of the political ideology that Islam has been used to promote.
You're making a huge mistake by conflating Islam with political corruption and violence. Political regimes use religion as a tool to gain power. That's not Islam, that's the abuse of it. What you're describing is not Islamic in nature, it's the result of authoritarian, corrupt governments who use the religion to justify their power. Islam, in its essence, promotes peace and coexistence. Radical regimes are not a reflection of Islam, they're a product of bad politics and misinterpretation. If we look at Islamic history, we see a tradition of scholarship, peace, and diplomacy. Islam has been part of many peaceful, prosperous civilizations.
Come on, stop with the excuses. You can't separate political Islam from the religion itself. Every major conflict in the Middle East, many terrorist organizations, and even entire regimes have been driven by Islamic teachings. The fact that political leaders in Muslim-majority countries use Islam as their tool to rule, control, and wage war on the West is undeniable. And this is not just a political issue, it's a religious one. Islam is not a passive religion. It has active, militant elements that encourage violence against non-believers, and that's exactly what the extremists are using to justify their attacks.
So, there you have it: the political consequences of Islam. Is the religion itself responsible for the violence and instability, or is it the way it's used by corrupt regimes? You can't deny that Islam has had a significant impact on global politics. But the question is, can it ever break free from the destructive political use, or is it forever chained for it?
At the end of the day, you can try to defend Islam all you want, but the fact remains Islam, as it is practiced today, is a dangerous ideology that poses a threat to the freedoms and progress of modern society. Whether it's the oppression of women, the violence in the name of religion, or the political instability it breeds, Islam is not a force for good in the modern world. It's time we face the truth. Islam is a relic of the past, and it has no place in the future.
Islam has been misrepresented, misused, and manipulated by extremists. The true teachings of Islam are peaceful and just. The problem isn't with the religion, it's with how people choose to interpret it. Islam can coexist with modern values and has the potential to guide humanity towards a more just and compassionate world. We need to separate politics from religion and understand that Islam is about peace, justice, and the betterment of mankind. If we truly understand it, we'll see that Islam can play a key role in shaping a better future.
So, where do we go from here? Is Islam a force for progress, or is it a dangerous ideology that threatens the future of humanity? The truth isn't simple. But it's a question we all need to answer. Can Islam evolve, or will it remain locked in the past? You can watch more videos and participate in our polls by subscribing to our channel. Which side do you stand on?